It's a 50-year anniversary of something special. And with me is Terry Trexler out of Virginia Beach and Alan Murray out of Virginia Beach. Now, Alan's never hung out with us before. So Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Oh gosh, life story?
Okay, so we are back again. We're going to discuss a very special topic for this summer.
That's easy. I've been in Virginia since the 80s. I came in with the Navy. I got into real estate back in 2010. I did a lot of investor stuff, became a realtor about 5 years ago and just love it.
Nice.
And with LPT Realty, of course, we all are. But yeah, I love the fact that we have people all over this country that share and just do stuff like this. This is so cool, man. And talking about your 50th anniversary, I'm looking forward to that.
So I have to throw this out there real quick that Terry is a Marine Corps veteran, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and Alan is a Navy veteran. So we asked Alan to be here because we needed a ride somewhere, and he's going to ride us and keep us on point. So that's the. But can you tell me this? Do you utilize Uber or Lyft? Well, what the hell does it matter to you? Well, just answer the question. Do you like Uber or Lyft? Do you use them? Yes, I use them. And I'm like, you won't talk on the phone to a stranger, but you'll get in a stranger's car. Okay.
Makes so much more sense, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's all perspective.
That's right. That's right. I mean, well, it's okay. They've got reviews on the internet. Oh, yes, because everything on the internet is true and factual. So Abraham Lincoln said that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Well, cool. So let's get into our 50th anniversary thing. So I'm just going to pull it up here. Boom! Jaws. So I know a lot of people watching this might not know what Jaws is, but Jaws was the first summer blockbuster movie. It was ahead of its time. It was a horror movie. And the funny part was technology really wasn't there. So Steven Spielberg, who gave us Indiana Jones and E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and a bunch of other movies that you probably haven't heard of, not YouTube, but our listeners.
I bet you.
Yeah. They couldn't show the shark really until the end because it wasn't working most of the time. So Spielberg used a lot of drama. He used a lot of sleight of hand. He used a lot of other things. So he used the mind to scare you. And plus, it's a great movie about man versus beach, man against nature, memorable characters, all that good stuff. But I wanted to talk about it from the standpoint of, hey, what does Jaws have to do with real estate? And believe it or not, it's got quite a bit to do with real estate. So I thought we would just kind of talk about that. So what are some things that jump out at you all about how this shark, this big fish, could affect real estate?
Well, I mean, I'll just throw something out there. First off, I gotta say thanks for having me on, because you always come up with these creative ideas that are so different that I just want to be on as much as I can, because you tie things in together with real estate that just you don't see out there. So when you hit me up about, hey, I got this idea, it's Jaws' 50th anniversary, and I want to talk about how it relates to real estate. I'm like, oh my God, yes, please, let's talk about it, because all the other stuff gets boring. Right. So kudos to you for that. And but yeah, I mean, I remember watching Jaws as a kid and just, first off, just, I don't know if it's the guy in me or maybe something messed up in my head that, let's watch an animal tear apart humans. I don't know what it is, but something was interesting to me about that.
Yep.
That sounded really wrong, man.
Yeah.
I give you rides.
Yes, drive us.
Okay, stop.
He's an Uber driver.
You guys are just
That
digging
sounded
a
wrong,
deep hole.
Which, oh man, I got into it with somebody the other day. I was on the phone with them and they're like, why are you calling me? I don't like to talk on the phone because I don't know who it is. And I said, okay, that's a fair point.
But no, as far as I remember watching it, we all no matter where anybody lives, right? And I'm glad Alan's on because he can talk about it from ground zero from Jaws, Massachusetts. And I'll let him tell that because my stories are going to be just kind of my feelings, and he can tell us firsthand about it. But in the 1900s.
Yeah. So yeah, and what I found was it looks like, in places like Auckland, property values went down 59%, Yeah, because people were like, oh my God, not only do I not want to go near the water, but I don't want to buy real estate near the water. And when the movie first came out, tourism was hit really hard. Like Carolina Beach was crying at the summer of '75 when that came out right around July 4th. They had a huge downtick. And that's huge because you think, hey, you could still go there and have a beer and sit by the water and enjoy it. You don't have to go in the water. So if that's just, people that are coming down to sit by the water, imagine how many people actually didn't go in the water.
Right.
So, yeah, and consequently, when people had their house on the market during that time, they were not getting full market price. It was definitely a buyer's market then. So there was actually people that swooped in and then did buy, oceanfront. Now, granted, oceanfront wasn't as popular as it is now. I would say basically since about the 90s, oceanfront's, really taken off of people coming. And it wasn't like it was today. A lot of times people just kind of drove down, showed up, and they were at the beach. They didn't reserve months out, but they had a lot fewer people coming, and the bars saw a drop of about 63%, according to what I could find. Yeah, but that was amazing. And then it's really cool how nothing happens in a vacuum, right? Everything kind of builds on everything else, and people take AC for granted. I'm just south of you all. Y'all are in Virginia Beach. I'm in Carolina, Jacksonville, Topsail Island area. I gotta tell you, we have 100% humidity today. We're in the 90s. It's brutal. And in back in those days, in '75 and prior to, you didn't go to the movies in the summertime. Yeah, the kids were out from school, but you just didn't go because there was no AC. So why would you want to sit in a big dark room with a bunch of hot, sweaty bodies that were generating more heat? And you'd be miserable. And, in '75, that summer was basically the first summer of air conditioning. And air conditioning has been
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Look at, and when we talk about migration and people moving, particularly to the south, it really wasn't possible until air conditioning came into effect. And that's why a lot of people, have left the Rust Belts and whatnot, because now they can live in places like the South or, in Las Vegas. Try living in a desert, right, without AC. Terry, we've done that with the Marine Corps, and it was not fun.
Yep. Well,
I didn't give you a ride there.
No, you did not.
No.
You did not. It was landlocked.
It was landlocked, right.
Yeah.
Very true. So, Alan, I know we hit you up at the last minute.
But, prior to that, it wasn't as, big of a deal. And I've got to go back and kind of research and figure out, hey, what was the main driver in the 1990s?
Architect slowed down. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, finally, after 20 years, because the movie had been out by 20 years at that point. Yeah.
But yeah, thinking of you hear about these shark attacks, and then it doesn't matter if it's one shark attack. How many millions of people are in the water, and people automatically get freaked out, well, don't want to live near there. First off, the animal's in the water. Two, there's millions of people out, but it still has such a huge effect on where people want to, I don't know if we should move there. I want to enjoy the beach.
Yeah.
There's gonna be sharks in all the water, so
right.
But it's just that the thought process, oh my God, it can really happen, I think affects people. And then I don't know, in one other way, I think a lot of people, it makes them see, some people don't even think about the sharks, and they see all the nice houses on the beach, and they're like, I want that sunset, or I want this. So I think it's brought a lot of attention to waterfront property, good or bad. That's just my take.
100%. So it was hard to get all the numbers because Jaws came out in 1975, which for us was, 20 years ago. But for most people, that's like ancient history. That's like around the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
I would reach out to Steve and I said, hey, I know you invited me, but Alan's from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Let's hear about Jaws from your standpoint, I think, because you lived up there during, I guess, or shortly thereafter, during those crazy times. So what was it like? What did you see?
So I'll tell you my story, then I'll tell you one of my bad dad jokes to finish it off. That was prime time for me. I was a teenager when Jaws came out. And number one, awesome movie. It's the first movie where a child died in it and the movie made money.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
And typically, if a child died in the movie, it kind of bombed. But it was what it was. And yeah, it seriously affected tourism, housing market, and some of it to me is kind of crazy because, like, I don't want to live near the beach because there's a shark out there. It's like the client that goes, I can't buy this house, the walls are painted blue. You just don't have to do that, right? But yeah, overall tourism, everything else in the islands, you get down by Martha's Vineyard and out there, tourism just dropped off because people didn't want to get on the ferry to go across from Woods Hole over to Martha's Vineyard because you saw the size of that shark, right?
Might jump out.
Yeah. But yeah, so it affected for quite a while. And for anybody that was buying up there, did great. I'm sure it helped other markets that weren't on the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all changed about 20 years later. Markets started coming up. I love being in Virginia because I like the market to Massachusetts because down here, water properties are so much cheaper than they are up there. Because up there nowadays, it's insane. But that whole, I'd say probably, I left in 79, but those 4 years, yeah, there was a distinct drop in property sales, like you said, along the beaches and that kind of stuff, bars and that kind of deal. We had a place called Paragon Park, was an amusement park along the beach, and they had all these restaurants and bars and that kind of stuff. And yeah, just major drop off. Now for the kids, we didn't care.
Right. So speaking of the kids didn't care, Terry's gonna love this story because Terry's like, yep, I can see that. So it wasn't my unit, it wasn't particularly one of my Marines, but I did know the guy that had a couple Marines in his platoon that thought it was a great deal because last few years, we've had some shark attacks in North Topsail Beach, full disclosure. But having said that, nothing happens in a vacuum, right? So on Onslow Beach, there was something that was done to kind of stir up the sharks, tempt the fates, and get them motivated, like all Marines do. They like to poke the bear, so to speak. And had a guy who literally took he welded this awesome bumper out of like steel. He fabricated himself, welded it onto his pickup truck, threw a chain on that, and at the end of the chain he had some kind of, I don't know if it was his wife's Thanksgiving roast that, like in the movie, but literally baited the sharks. And he's like, hey, when something hits the line, I'm going to slam it in reverse and go. And that's exactly what he did. So, and then stories about guys cutting themselves and going swimming just to see what would happen. I mean, that's typical young Marine behavior. And, because people have asked me why in your area? And I'm like, well, that's why, because, Marines doing Marine stuff. That's how we roll.
Tempt fate.
Right. Let's see if anything
I know too many
comes.
Smart Marines, man. I know too many Smart Marines. We
They
call that
must,
natural
I don't know
selection.
where they are. I never served with those guys.
That's hysterical.
But you were with the smart guys. Your ASVAB score was higher than us, Terry. My ASVAB score was a little low, so I had to do what I had to do.
Now we're just talking about Jaws.
Yeah.
You're not
right.
cutting yourself at the beach no more, but you're just like living vicariously, talking about it with some people you know.
Absolutely.
Well, now that they put it back out, though, my curiosity is going to be,
Yeah.
because you look back at it now and you go, oh, they need to CGI so bad. But if this thing comes out and hit the movie theaters like it is now, I wonder if it will have a similar type effect. Because the other thing you run into, and this is, back in the 70s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones that had cameras on them, this kind of stuff. So when you heard these stories, or you had these movies and stories, because everybody would come out with a story afterwards. Oh, I saw a shark out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a major fear factors. And what some people would think would be like, oh yeah, we tell them, give them a teaser on this, that'll boost our business. And then came the crickets, right? It's like, I'm not going there if I can get bit by a shark. So I'm curious, because of all the technology and the knowledge we have these days, although, I think it's this week. Isn't this week coming up Shark Week?
Yeah, it is Shark Week, and then on the 19th, and check your times. But if you go online, you can find it. There's certain places throughout the country that are doing a 50th anniversary showing of Jaws, whereby they're pairing it with the orchestra. So like the orchestra is playing the theme and all that, and then you get to watch the movie. And yeah, wow, what a cool experience.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. It says July 20th, which is the 26th. So
It's Shark Week.
yeah.
I'll be in the mountains that week, by the way.
Is that because you're from Massachusetts? You have PTSD from being in Massachusetts during Jaws? Is that what it is?
Total coincidence.
I think Sharknado can bring the sharks to you.
Oh.
That's the other.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
That is
Sharknado,
true.
I mean, that's really possible.
That's a cult following there.
That
Oh,
is,
gosh.
and check out. I mean, you'll want 2 hours of your life back. It's so bad, it's good. But House Shark.
House Shark. Okay.
Yeah. So
Didn't that
shark,
come up? Go ahead.
It's awful. The shark came out of the toilet and started killing people in the house.
What?
I thought it was like that old Saturday Night Live kick. Land shark.
No, not at all. So it was funny. My brother-in-law came over from Germany, and he was kind of bored, so I had to do some work, meet a client. So I was like, hey, just watch this for a while. And he sat there. He thought that was the funniest thing ever. The actors are in on the joke. They have the most fun ever. The one guy keeps changing his accent. Sometimes he's supposed to be German. Other times, other things. There's one guy that's supposed to be like a priest Quint, doing an exorcism in the house, and it's absolutely insane. You could find it, I think, on Hulu or something like that. But House Shark, yeah.
Sounds fishy to me.
Just
Yeah.
Google the trailer. Do yourself a favor, at least watch the trailer. You won't stop laughing for about 5 minutes.
I mean, I don't know if it doesn't have like 4, 5, 6 different movies about it. Like Sharknado must have been something realistic because there's so many movies.
Yes.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
And you had the girl from American Pie, Tara Reid, and you had Ian Zierling or whatever from 90210.
Oh wow!
So you had that star power.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Way
Star
late.
power.
Way late. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Too bad they couldn't get William Shatner in.
Now,
You
that's
still
a
got
possibility they
movie
could have
in
got
it.
done for the remake.
Yeah, we'll see. Sharknado 2025. Good Lord.
But most people haven't read the book Jaws. I did, and I gotta tell you, this is one of those rare instances where, no offense to Peter Benchley, because he's done some quality work, but I gotta tell you, the movie's far better than the book because the characters are so much more memorable, and the characters are just so god awful. There is no redeeming character in the book at all. And there's some subplots which I absolutely hate. I don't want to ruin it because if somebody wants to go out and read it, I think it's a good book. It pales in comparison to the movie, and there's some things in there I don't like. So thank God Spielberg changed it. But one of the things I did like is this man right here, Mayor Larry Vaughn 2028. The mayor of the town. He had the best jackets. That anchor jacket, I'm still trying to find. I still want to wear that. So next LPT get together, I'm going to show up maybe with a blue shirt, so I match Terry like I always do, and then the jacket on top.
Okay.
But the book goes into great detail about why he wanted to keep the beaches open. He had mob connections. There were some, mob with real estate deals, and he was kind of fronting the mob and that type of thing, and that was a big reason why he had to do it. Which, in the movie, it didn't go into enough of that. I mean, sure, we heard it was a summer town, we need summer dollars, but the book really, hit onto that. And I thought that was an interesting backstory and wish that could have been added in some way, somehow. But other
I
than
didn't know that part.
I was kind of like, I don't like how these characters are portrayed in the book. They're not as cool.
No, that's wild. I didn't think about that because, I mean, you got to think, even like in today's society, it's become a lot more noticeable for everybody. But normally someone has an agenda.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of what it is, there's some reason they're doing this and not doing that. So in that situation, I mean, when the movie came out, they probably didn't want to talk too much about, I hate to even say this, political agendas, but the mayor being political, they didn't want to talk, they just wanted to entertain, you know? But now it's like, Well, you 100% should have talked about the mayor not wanting to close things down because of his ties to A, B, and C, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's like that in itself is a huge storyline. And here's the thing, if someone puts it together again, that'd be awesome for a remake, I think, especially.
Oh, yeah.
I so don't want to see a Jaws remake.
Well,
I really feel like it's a perfect movie.
It may never live up to it.
It definitely
You know what I mean?
won't, yeah.
Like it's tough to ever come back and redo something that was just spot on the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those characters are just incredible. And the people that played them, you know. Funny story for you about Robert Shaw, who played Quint. He actually, I don't know if you know this or not, Alan, or maybe heard this, but he was only on shore for a few minutes and only had a couple scenes on land. And that was because he owed the IRS a bunch of back taxes. So he lived on a boat 10 miles out in international waters. And then he would come in to shoot his scenes.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So they had to, he would do a scene, a couple scenes on land. I think all his shooting was done in a handful of days on land, and then they take him back out, so he wouldn't get nabbed by the IRS.
That's insane. I love that. Yeah, I think the only scenes he had were the town hall scene.
Yeah, the town hall scene, and then the scene when they were on the dock.
Yes.
And one scene when he was in his house, when he gave the chief and Hooper some moonshine and the whole city hands bit. Love that. That was great.
Yep.
So that was it. Yeah.
Anybody in Massachusetts probably would have read between the lines about the whole political and mob thing because it's Massachusetts. It's a crazy place.
Yeah.
I love being from there. I'm glad I don't live there anymore. I still have a lot of relatives up there. I love going back to visit, but it's no longer my kind of town.
No, I another one of my favorite movies, The Departed, where they talk about, was it Frank White? Whitey Bulger, excuse me. And there's a guy that lives near me that, I don't want to say too much to kind of give away his identity, but, I got to talk with him, and he came from, Boston, and he had done deliveries for Whitey when he was a kid. So he would talk about it and talk about some of the stuff, and I'm fascinated by that, the whole mob thing. Don't know why, being from the South, we don't have a point of reference for that, but I just think that kind of stuff is interesting. And he told me some about, Whitey Bulger and how he kind of, ran the neighborhood and some of the stuff he did and how people treated him. And I was like, wow, that's the real deal. And it wasn't that long ago either.
It wasn't. And Massachusetts, I love it, but they have these different areas of the city that are, like you have Chinatown, the North End, all these places that are their own little, for lack of better expression, own little countries, and things are run completely differently. And the neighborhoods, when I grew up, no matter what neighborhood you lived in, my neighborhood, I had 93 sets of parents, because if you screwed up, somebody's going to get you, But it was actually really kind of cool. But, I literally lived across the street from the water. But I was on an inlet, although in later Jaws movies they came in the inlets too. But yeah, we're probably 10 minutes from the ocean, and it was, like I say, it was kind of crazy because in the summertime you go out there and most of the locals wouldn't go to the beach in the summertime because there was nowhere to park your umbrella. It was that packed.
Wow.
It was probably 95% tourists. And Jaws came out, and it was a great time to go to the beach if you're a local.
Right.
Just point of reference, I have to tell you that if you remember in Jaws 1, Chiefy sent his young son to the pond. And he's and the boy's like, the pond's for old ladies. And he's like, yeah, but do it for the old man. And of course, that guy in the boat got hit. So the rowboat.
100%.
But something else that jumps out about me, and Terry mentioned it earlier about the politics, and before then movies were more about fun and entertainment, and then they started to become more of a social commentary. And I think the 70s were rife with activism, and that was a big thing. And I think that Spielberg was one of the first directors that did that. I mean, look at Jaws and that, commentary. And then what about Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Another one where Mr. Dreyfuss was in. He was the kind of the main character. That said a lot about the government and being secretive, which the Kennedy assassination was only a few years, before all of that. So I think that, that started kind of the deep mistrust of the government and the deep state. And then, of course, E.T., he followed it up with that again. So it seems like Spielberg was always trying to do those little nuggets and throw in some social commentary. Maybe not so much with Indiana Jones, because Indiana Jones was more, I think escapism, our version of James Bond, if you will. But yeah, I mean, that was something that Spielberg did again and again and again.
And even like Roy Scheider, he did a movie shortly after, and I forget the name of it, but he was a police helicopter pilot.
Blue Thunder.
Blue Thunder, that's
yeah.
it. Same kind of thing, right? Where you're uncovering the bad stuff that's going on. But no, I think the 70s changed a lot. It did. We had that shift in perception, and again, some of it because some of the technology got better, that we could start getting stuff out better. So it did a lot for real estate, because all of a sudden you started getting to a point where getting information from around the country became a lot easier.
Right.
Then we got into the 80s, we got the internet, it just grew. And, we got one of our partners, Anthony Dezette, beachhomesforsale.com, all around the country and now expanding to the world. So you can, in a moment's notice, see something around the world that you might be interested in.
Yeah.
100%.
Just that quick. So when I do my ads for my higher end properties down here, I market not just to my local market, I market up and down the coast, because people in New England that are trying to avoid sharks are looking for properties, and this fits their bill, and it's actually substantially less than what they would pay up there.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I pursued my Certified International Property Specialist designation. Being a fluent German speaker as well, and talking to people all over the world with technology. The thing that I have right now when a lot of Europeans come here to North Carolina is our biggest international airport, Charlotte. And, of course, the geography of North Carolina, not super big, north-south, but east to west, huge. And the old joke is it could take you 8 hours to drive from western part of the state to the eastern part of the state and the coast. And coming from Charlotte, because there's no direct point to get there, it's a good, 4.5, 5 hour drive, depending on where you're going. So it's a little unwieldy. We talk a little bit about hoppers and getting people from Charlotte to Wilmington or Charlotte to Jacksonville. That airport, yes, it's a small airport, but Jacksonville, Albert J. Ellis has come a long way. And that means, more people are starting to come here. And, my market in particular, I've got so many cats and dogs here that are no longer just military. And
Nice.
For me, what changed that over the last 20 years really was 2020. Because when people could start working remote because of all that happened, and the fear of, I can't see it, I can't touch it, feel it, and it's going to kill me. People working from home or anywhere that they had a good internet connection, they would get online, using that technology, and they would see the prices that we had here for the beaches, Topsail Island, Surf City, North Carolina. And they would be like, well, my God, I can't rent for what I could pay for a house. And I remember I sold a piece of dirt during that time in Topsail. It was in a gated community. And check this out, Topsail is an island. It's 25 miles long. And this was an island on an island. It was really a peninsula, if you will, that was on an island. And the lot was 13 acres, raw land, but it was $250,000. And the guy that bought it was from the Hamptons. He drank his coffee with his pinky out and all that. And he accented the Hamptons. I can't do it like he did it, but that was his thing. And he's like, I just didn't pay rent for a few months and I bought a piece of land. And I was like, oh my God, how much is your rent up there?
In the Hamptons, a lot.
Yeah. So
I want to say like 10 or 12 years ago, I was watching a show and they had something in the Hamptons, and it was like $12 for a pound of butter. I'm
Wow.
like, you could do a DoorDash delivery from the city and pay cheaper, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We have to ration that butter out in my house.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah. Virginia's as far north as I'm going.
Yep. And I'm kind of saying I love it here because it's kind of even keeled on its temperatures.
Yeah.
We have 4 seasons, but the winter, I'm not measuring snow by the feet. It might be by the inch if we have it.
Yeah.
Summers do get hot, sometimes a little humid. Massachusetts, like it was winter, 3 weeks of summer that was 100 degrees and 99% humidity, and
Really?
then back to winter. Yeah, it was tough. And we grew up without AC.
Yeah.
And my brother bought his first house and it literally went, it was like $3,000 to add full AC for his 2-story cape and basement. And he was like, no, we won't need that. Like 3 years later, he's like, I should have got it.
I mean, even I lived up there after I got out of the Marine Corps. I got a job offer up there, and I moved to Gloucester, Mass. And
Okay.
yeah, so I lived in Gloucester, Mass for a year, and I lived in Salem, Mass for a year.
I
And
love Salem.
yeah, I love Salem. And Gloucester was nice too. I mean, but it was just such a different world because I grew up in Virginia Beach, and then I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, and I was in 29 Palms for a year. But then I was down there close to where Stephen is now in the Jacksonville area for another 5 years. But then when I got the job offer, I went up there. It's such a great job offer. Didn't realize money wasn't the same everywhere as far as what you got paid. And then to touch on your AC comment, when I started looking for a place to live, of course, I could only afford an apartment when I thought I'd get a house because of my money. But then I didn't think, when was this? 1999. Yeah, I got out of the Marine Corps in 1999. So I was up there at the end of 99, beginning of 2000 looking for an apartment. For one, it was crazy expensive. 2, most everything's very old. And you have to research to see if it has AC. I didn't think about that. So
Just
I ended up
assumed
with
it
an
had
AC window unit because it didn't have AC. And I was like, what do you turn the AC at? And this is after I've already signed my lease. They're like,
What's that?
your window's right there. And they're like, I'm like no, like thermostat? They're like, you got heat? And I'm like, but and they're like, you need to buy a window unit and put it in one of these windows right here. And I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, okay.
What kind of heat did you have though?
Oh,
I grew up with radiator heat.
Yep, that's what I had. I had a radiator, and I think they were even the taller, like cast iron ones, right?
Nice.
Yep, that's what I had.
Yeah, and I was like, this is a different world. Like, what is going on? And I had a good time up there. Met some great people, not so great people, just like everywhere. They even have a name for them, assholes. And crazy. What finally brought me back to Virginia is we had a crazy snowstorm. Or actually, it wasn't when it brought me back because I had to let it ride out my new job because it was a great opportunity. But I was up there and we didn't have a crazy snow that first because I got up there in January. Nothing crazy happened. We had some snow. But then the following season, there was like a snow that came down like 14, 16 inches, something like that. Well, I didn't think about it. I stayed home. I didn't call in. I stayed home. I got a phone call.
It was only 14 inches.
Thanks, Mr. Massachusetts. He's like, they were like, Terry, you coming in today, right? And I'm like, I mean, I would, but there's like 14 or so inches of snow, and I got like a small car, and they're like, do you want your job? And I'm like, yeah, but I'll be there when the snow gets cleared. They're like, no, you're gonna come in now, or you don't have a job. And I'm like, but, oh, okay, good answer. Click, and I was like, what the hell am I supposed to? So there I am, 5 miles an hour with my Ford Taurus back then.
Nice.
Like, how the hell? But God, like that, and then that was the moment it clicked in my head, like, I can't stay up here. I can't stay. I learned how to drive.
It could be tough.
Well, but I didn't want to keep going through that. So
So you thought there was snow parties like the hurricane parties we used
Yeah,
to
right?
have.
yeah.
So here's the crazy opposite side of that, Terry. So I get to Virginia, and winter hits. We had a what they call a good snowstorm here. There's about 3 inches on the ground, right? So I go to work and I get there and they're like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
"No, we're shut down, emergency personnel only." And I'm like, "For what?" "The snow, we had a blizzard." I'm like, "This is the dusting." So yeah, I literally, I was off for like almost a week. They
Yeah.
shut down the Navy base. And I'm like, oh my Lord.
That's what I'm used to. See,
Yeah.
that's what I grew up with. And it doesn't have to be 3 inches. If the weatherman says there's a chance of snow,
They closed.
the school, everybody acts like they're going to stay open, but then all of a sudden, the morning of, there's a chance of snow. Okay, just in case, we're shutting down. We're shutting down. And I'm like, guys, and that's what's so funny. Like being here my whole life, I'll call it 3 days in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey guys, just don't be ready. You're not going to school or work this Thursday or Friday. Well, how do you know it's going to snow? I don't, but they said it might. So we're not going. Yes, we might. I'm like, no, we're not. Because I've seen it for 50 years. So,
Well, and those are those built-in holidays you get when you work the corporate world, right?
yeah,
Or you go to school or stuff like that.
right.
As realtors, we work every day.
That's right. And I think you are touching on a great point, that the zero defect mentality, hey, we got to be careful because this could happen, all about, I mean, safety is important, don't get me wrong, but maybe we take it a little too far in this litigious age. And that's exactly what things like Jaws did, and that's what other things in society do, which then, of course, that's right.
Oh, you're going to have to do that before we get off the call. Even the sharks get candy.
That's right. But I got my Aloha shirt because it's beach themed.
I see that.
But no, I, all this stuff has an effect on people's mindset, on their well-being, and on their desire to buy, sell, or invest. I would argue if Jaws came out today, yeah, probably people would decide, hey, I'm not gonna, it would contribute to it. I mean, I know that, and I'm sure you all experience the same things. When Iran and Israel were hot and heavy, people were like, hey, not only do we have the interest rate thing, but we have this and X, Y, Z, so we're going to just hold off a little while longer and see and wait. So, yeah, I think it all affects us.
The touch on that, it's so true, because it doesn't take many shark attacks, bear attacks, any type of attack, because even one attack will get publicized and be seen by millions of millions.
Right.
When back in the day, especially before even the 70s, but let's rewind before that, a shark attack, no one heard about except for the 20 people that were there and some of their friends. Now, one shark attack is seen by the entire country and beyond. So it makes it seem so much bigger of a deal.
It's what I love about Shark Week. If you watch Shark Week, they go back and they tell all the stories from like the 1800s all the way up. They're maybe Arizona. Maybe Arizona hasn't had a shark attack. If there's a lake, they found a way to get a shark there.
Right, yeah.
Right now it goes to who barks the loudest, and this baby does.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does. And we can talk about things for days, but I'm like planes, I look at the rate, the chances of dying in a plane crash. Like, you should be more afraid of getting in your car than the plane, but the fact that the news publicizes it so incredibly much, I forget what I saw a few weeks ago, but flying is, I don't even know, 100, 200 times safer than it ever was, even 10 or 20 years, 30 years ago.
Yep.
But it's still like, oh my God, like I don't want to jump on a plane. More people are afraid now than ever because that thing in your hand and the internet, right? It's like everybody sees it.
Well, one of the things it kind of comes down to is, again, it's perspective, and when you see enough of it, and let's face it, movies glorify it,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect you as much.
Mhm.
How many cars were destroyed in that huge accident in Chicago during the Blues Brothers?
I forget how many cars they went through, but it's quite a bit.
Yeah, but like they're piling up, and people in the theater were like just laughing their butts off.
That's true.
Right? So now car accidents they're horrific and you never want to see them, but it kind of dulls the senses to what a car accident does. Most people don't do movies about planes going down. So when that hits, it's a huge effect. the whole Jaws thing is tying it back to there. Getting to my dad joke. But all over the world there are shark attacks, and if you actually sit there and watch all of Shark Week, you're going to be living in the mountains and praying that Sharknado doesn't happen.
Right, exactly. And it does. It affects. It's amazing how something that is such an isolated incident, truly, if I don't know the numbers, but truly an isolated incident can cause such a massive impact on real estate.
Right.
I mean, I get like wars and all this other stuff, but one shark that bites 3 people over the course of a couple days at a beach, oh my God, there's a national epidemic of shark attacks.
Yep.
But no, there's not. It's just.
This has been the greatest blessing and the greatest curse, because the social
100%.
media keeps everybody on edge all the time. All the time, and it's like, well, let's step back for a second, and you can't do it because
it was so terrifying for so many people. We had to find a way to get past that.
Okay.
So what we did is we watched the movie in reverse. So it was about a great white shark that threw up people before they opened the beach.
He understood the mission. We're a summer town. We need those summer dollars.
Exactly.
That's one way to look at it. I've never heard of that.
That is awesome. I would definitely get on that. Well, I think that's a great way to kind of end this. So thank you for jamming with me. Huge fan of this movie. It's one of my favorites for a lot of reasons. And I think it had a huge effect on real estate, and it still continues to affect real estate to this day. But as a caveat to everybody, I will say values have come back even more so. And if you don't believe me, just check the internet. It's all there.
Right.
So, All right, fellas. Hey, Alan, just want to say thanks again for coming, hanging out with us today for the first time, and Skacking Tricks.
Yep. Thank you for having me, brother. Anytime. Love spending time with you guys.
Awesome. All right, awesome. Well, hey, y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it. See you guys later.
Take care.
All right,
bye, guys.
Bye.